with your girl Joy from Be the Difference Clothing. Hey guys, how are you? I hope you had a good day. Oh my goodness, guys, I had an amazing day. It was great, but I'm going to check to see if I am buffering at all. And let me see. No bufferation, no bufferation. Everything looks good on this end. And that is good. Yes. Oh my goodness. I can't wait. So, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, turn on your notification bells. And if possible, if at all possible, share the stream out if you have the capabilities of doing so. And also, if you wouldn't mind, turning on your ding a ding dings, your notification bells, and giving me a thumbs something. However, which way you want to put the thumbs is up to you, but I would appreciate you doing that and sharing the stream out. I am actually going to share the stream out right now because, guys, not only am I excited about telling you how my day was, but I'm also excited about the guest that we have tonight. So I definitely want you guys to tune in for that. Ooh, and he's here. Yay. I can't wait to bring him on. But so today, I woke up, went to work or whatever, and then I'm sharing the stream. That's why I'm kind of dragging along. Okay, so I went to work, and then after work, actually later on in the afternoon, my coworker was making something for me that I was going to make for her, and a shirt wise. So I went ahead and had that done. And then, like a half an hour later, I get a phone call. And it's from a friend of mine that I haven't seen literally for like over 6 years, right? And so he's like, Joy. I was like, hey, what's up, Flagneck? How are you? Welcome to Hello World. If you can, bring some people in. We have a great guest tonight. I can't wait to introduce him. But I have to go through my spiel. So he was like, I'm in Jersey. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier. I was like, that's okay. And I was like, well, where are you? And he literally is always just like a half an hour away from wherever I am when he's in Jersey. So I ended up meeting him. Thank you. I ended up meeting him, and oh my goodness, he supported the company, and so did his friend. But you guys have to check out the video. I'm going to post it tomorrow. And it's a video about what they do for a living. And it was just fun. It was an amazing day. It turned out great. I can't complain. Um, and then after that, I went and made some shirts. When Patty D comes in here, she purchased something over the weekend, and I have her stuff made. And I also made my coworkers thing, and then some extra hoodies or whatever. So that is what I did for today. Then I ate something and now I'm here, but I'm super excited. So, guys, let me tell you about my guest that's coming on tonight, right? His name is Chris, right? And I don't know how we ended up meeting, but on Instagram, I was just trying to follow as many inspirational people as possible. And I followed him and I was like, oh my goodness, he has like such a great thing. He had a podcast and he was doing so many amazing things. But the thing that stood out the most is the fact that he encourages people to be themselves, to live their life to the fullest, to be the best version of themselves. And these are all on the same lines of what I try to aspire to do. And so I was like, man, I got to link up with him however I can. And so, long story short, years have passed and he disappeared off of Instagram. And I wondered from time to time, I was like, where's Chris? I haven't seen him in a long time. I kind of enjoyed, just seeing his podcast pop up and then like the information that he would tell you, the details about the picture and everything. And then one day he came back. And this is like now we have IGTV. And so I saw the video and he was like, yeah, it's been a long time since I've been here. And I was like, oh, I was just automatically drawn in because I was like, oh my goodness, I was just thinking about you. And so when I saw the video he posted, I was like, you know what? You got to come on Hello World and talk about this. Like, because one, it's a topic that is rarely probably never talked about. Two, because he's a dope person. And three, because we need to know more about each other and still have two people inspiring you. Oh my goodness. That's dynamite. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you guys to Chris. Please make sure if you have questions for him to put the question marks in front and behind your question so that we can see that. But without further ado, this is Chris. I'm so happy you're here.
Hey,
How are you?
hey, I'm good. Thank you I was listening to that introduction. It was so beautiful and so lovely. Thank you.
No, but it's the truth.
That's so sweet of
So,
you, though.
how was your day?
My day was good. It was productive,
Mhm.
and it's still at because I'm on the West Coast, so it's still only like 5 p.m. for me. So it's still
Okay.
I'm still doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you remember how we met?
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was through Instagram in some way, but like Instagram is kind of like that. Those like rabbit holes, right? We just like we click on something, it's a hashtag, or if somebody shares something, and I'm sure it must be like that because I meet a ton of people in that way,
Uh-huh.
and I have this similar conversation with others, like how did we meet? Unless it's a guest on my podcast, because I usually know that. But
Right.
everybody else, I'm like, I don't know. We probably just met some like really wonderful, serendipitous way.
Mhm. Well, so would you mind telling people a little bit about who you are and then going into that video that I saw?
Sure. So you did talk a little bit about it, like trying to help people celebrate or be themselves. So what I do is I I run a podcast and multiple different things. So I actually run a company called Accidental Information, and in it, what we're trying to do is celebrate what makes us different. So all those unique things that make you who you are, and showing people that by celebrating those things, it'll help you find purpose in your work and life. And so that's kind of like my MO. And I do that in different ways. So it's through a podcast, My Big Story is what it's called. And in the podcast, I travel the United States and I interview people in person and I get to know their stories. So it's not just like your typical podcast where you're like, you maybe talk to them for like 30 minutes. The show may be about 30 minutes,
Mhm.
but I'm actually in that person's world for like half a day. I'm doing stuff with them. I'm in their home. I'm volunteering with them. I'm running their business with them. I'm doing something. And the idea is to help people find this inspiration that you can be unique and different in all these things. Um, and also to uncover the stories that we don't normally hear. Because I think we hear a lot of the same stories or the same sort of people. Like we see, like when I started podcasting, for example, what I noticed was a lot of like middle-aged Caucasian men, like as guests. And I was like, okay, but what about all the other stories? So that's kind of what I set out to do. So that's really kind of my space. And I also host a web show as well. I just started
Okay.
recently where I interview people a little bit about their story, but really how they're using it to power their life. So that's me. That's what I do.
I love it. I love it. So tell us how you came back to Instagram.
Sure. Well, actually, I've been on Instagram the whole time. I think it's like maybe twofold. Like the tricky algorithm that Instagram has that
Oh,
doesn't always show us each other.
mhm.
And I th and so I'd really been around the whole time doing stuff. I think that I had to pause my podcast though, because I travel, um, I couldn't travel, just without, spoiling the video yet, but I wasn't able to travel, so I actually had to pause the podcast because I had some health problems.
Mhm.
And so, I meant to go on hiatus for, like, 3 to 6 months. I thought, "I'm gonna take a break because I do that between seasons, and
Mhm.
I'll ramp up, and I'll start to produce that stuff and travel." And then, all of a sudden, my world changed, and I was like, I couldn't do it anymore. Doesn't mean I'm gonna stop completely, but do you want me to share what the
Yeah,
video was
please
about and stuff?
do.
So, so I unveiled this video, what, maybe 3 weeks, a month or so ago now, something like that. And in it, I shared that I was diagnosed with a rare disease, and it's something I've been living with for just over a year now. And I hadn't talked about it publicly, and I'm fairly public with all the stuff I do with the podcast and Instagram and all the social channels I'm on. And I like to be authentic and transparent about the things I'm doing, but I didn't share this news, and I didn't share it, and what I said in the video too was I didn't know what to share because when it was first starting, I didn't know what it was, and it was super scary, and it was I didn't feel good, it was awful, it was, like, none of the good stuff, and, so in this video, it had been a year, it was about actually an anniversary of 1 year, and I thought to myself, I'm ready to talk about it because I have answers, I know what I can do next," and I thought, "If I can share this, then maybe it'll help somebody else," not specifically with, like, the disease that I have, but more about you it's okay to share difficult stories. They don't always have to be inspirational. They don't always have to be happy and go lucky. And which is funny because you know this probably from my Instagram. Like I'm pretty smiley all the time and
Yeah.
happy and always like, finding the good stuff. But I wanted to share that life doesn't work that way. We can strive to be optimistic,
Mhm.
but stuff comes up. So I wanted to share this story about what it was I had, how it impacted me, and why it was important for me to disclose it to everybody, and to how I could maybe help.
So what is it that you have?
Sure, yeah. So I have this disease called Meniere's disease, which I first heard that I thought, oh, that sounds nice. Like it's French. Okay, cool. Sound fun. Um, and it's this rare inner ear disease where it's it's like the weirdest little disease. I mean, there's a zillion of these little like rare disease out there, but I just happen to get this one that impacts me in balance, in hearing, and thought.
Mhm.
So like the biggest thing that happens is I get these vertigo episodes. And they're if anybody's ever had vertigo before, and most people, because vertigo can be very common and you can get it for different reasons, but most people get it for like 2 to 5 minutes at a time. And the room feels like it's spinning and it feels awful, like you're on a bad amusement ride. Mine lasts for like 6 hours at a time.
Mm.
And it's so bad that like I'll fall over and I get so upset that I end up like vomiting and it's not pretty. And and it extends for me, like, the symptoms are like and then afterwards, it feels like being really hungover and maybe hit in the head for, like, 2 or 3 days afterwards. So it's really hard to think, you feel clouded, kinda like a cold medicine.
Mhm.
S And the other thing that happens for me is it's impacted my hearing. So I have something called tinnitus or tinnitus, depending on how you want to pronounce it, which is like a high pitch ringing in your ears, kind of like if you watch those. I even said this in the video. If you watch those movies, like or a crime show where they're shooting a gun and you hear that high pitched sound afterwards, that's what it's like always in my right
Mm.
ear. And I've also lost some hearing. So Meniere's is a progressive disease where it can actually it impacts your hearing and it can actually eliminate some to all of your hearing. So we'll see where I end up with that. So there's lots of different symptoms. It's like feeling wobbly, on and on. So there's lots of little things like that that impact people differently depending on how you have it. In my world, it's a little bit of like being on a boat all the time and you're swaying back and forth, and
Oh
and
gosh.
and then you get these crazy episodes that come up. So it's not a good time, but I have to tell you that it's helped me though. It's helped me realize because what I have is very invisible.
Mhm.
You could look right at me and not know I have any of these things.
Exactly.
I've gotten really good at um, figuring out how my triggers work and how to manage how I sit and walk and do these things so it doesn't appear that I have these things. And most of the time, you wouldn't know it anyways. But it's helped me understand, like, how others have invisible diseases or problems, and that could be a mental illness, that could be just a different disease, or it could just even be you're having a really tough time in your life and you hide it. Like, there's so many of us that are going through something that we don't see in front of us. And so that's been an important lesson for me to really, like, learn and own as I've gone through this.
Mm. So, like, do you think it's hereditary?
No, it's not.
No?
It's not. Yeah, I've become pretty good expert on it, and I have a great specialist. Even as I finally was diagnosed, the doctor said, "What do you think you have?" Because he'd known I had been researching this for months because I didn't have a diagnosis for about 4 months, and I said, "Oh, I think I have Meniere's," and he goes, "That's exactly what you have." And so we talked so much about it. It shows up for people in their, usually in their, like, 30s and 40s, and it affects men and women kind of the same, maybe slightly women a little bit more, but it's about the same. You can get it in both ears. It can be minor, it can be very extreme. Some people get, like, a vertigo session, like an episode once a year. Some people get it multiple times a week. So it can be really different depending on how it's impacting your life.
But you still always get that ringing in the
Oh,
air.
yeah, then that never goes away. Yeah,
Goodness.
yeah. But, like, you have to think about other people, like, I know somebody has nerve damage in their hands, and,
Mhm.
and it's progressive, so they're starting to lose the feeling in their hands, so to hold a cup of coffee, they have to have, like, a death grip on it just to know that they have it in their hand, otherwise they'll drop it. So I think about things like that, like, like, other people have other things all the time, so we just have to learn, I think, to work through the adversity.
Mhm.
um And interestingly, I connected it back to what I do anyways. I help people celebrate what makes them different, right?
Right, right.
So, this is part of what makes me different. Now, it's not something I wanted, you know, but it sure has helped me understand people differently. It's helped me understand what I can offer others. I can talk about this. I can take a stigma out of talking about these invisible diseases and things that we normally don't talk about.
Right, right.
So I think that on the flip side of this thing, and it took me a while to get there. I don't want to sugarcoat this. Like the first few months, I was not a happy camper about any of this. Like I was awful and horrible in it. And it took me a while, but now I can see that this is my story. It's part of my story. It's not my only story, but I can start to share that as well. Like as I'm as I'm interviewing people, as I'm in the podcast, I can look at things differently. And my questions were maybe a little different now because I have a different perspective.
Mhm, mhm. Do you, man, like, I'm wondering, like, how did this just come did it just come out of the blue or
It did. It did. It was all of a sudden, it was a Sunday night around 10 p.m., I think it was. I remember it very clearly
wow.
because it was so instant, and it was all by myself. So, it just freaked me out. Like, I mean, I was like, "What is happening to me?" And, I ended up having, like, a panic attack during it as well, which made it worse. Because I didn't know what was happening, and it wouldn't stop, and I couldn't move, and I couldn't whatever. Um, so it was a really scary experience. And the next time it happened to me, I was actually on vacation because it
Oh,
happened once, and then it happened like 2 or 3 weeks later. And then it progressively got worse, and it was happening multiple times a week, and so at some point, it was hard for me to, like, leave the house or walk or do anything normal that everybody takes for, granted.
granted, yes, I talk about that often. Let me just say hello to some people in the chat. Guys, this
Yeah.
is Chris. He's here just sharing his story. He is also a great inspirational person that you guys should get to know. After tonight's Hello World, I will post his information in the description down below. Everything you'll be able to contact him. You'll be able to email him if you have questions about anything. Holla Wanda, Flagnag, Nathan, how are you? And Anna. So those are some people that support Be the Difference. That I'm here every single night. So I'm so thankful that you guys made it through. If you have questions for Chris, please put the question marks ahead and after so that we can see this. Um, so did you immediately think you had to go to the doctor when this happened or like,
Yeah, I laugh a little bit because I'm not one to go straight to the doctor. No, I don't I'm not
Exactly.
anti-doctor whatsoever.
Me neither.
But I was like, I don't wanna make a big deal.
Mhm.
So, 'cause I got on the phone, with my partner, and he was like, "Oh, I think you need to call an ambulance." Do I?" I really was like, I don't know about that. That sounds like I don't want my neighbors be seeing an ambulance coming around here, and I don't wanna I still have to pay money for that." So,
Exactly. I could drive there myself.
I was like, "Well, I can't drive, but maybe I'll just wait it out. I'll wait."
Uh,
So, he laughs at me for that too. He's like, "Really? You really won't go do this?" And I said, "It'll pass." By the second time, then I thought, because 'cause I'd heard that people could get these sorts of episodes here and there, and things just happen. You could be dehydrated, you could be whatever.
yeah.
And so, but the second time I thought, "Oh, okay, this seems real now, like, it's happening a couple times." And then as it started to progress a little further, I mean, I knew I needed to go to the doctor, so I ended up seeing the doctor for
Mm,
sure, but it took a while to actually get to a specialist that could, give me real answers. Because here's the truth behind medicine. The doctors don't have all the answers, and it depends on the doctor you're talking to, what their experience is. And, they also have to rule out other things. So, they were trying to rule out, like, the everyday thing, and then they were trying to rule out the big things. And depending on your doctor, they present it in a very different way, and I'm just being really nice of saying that at first point was one of the doctors literally point blank was like, "I don't think you have a brain tumor."
oh, thank you.
And I thought, "Okay,
I'm
that
leaving right now.
that seems cool. I'm glad I don't seem to, like, have one. Could we find out for sure?" So, I think that is another reason, and I shared this in the video, that I didn't wanna bring all this up initially because I didn't have answers,
Right.
and those were some of the answers I was getting was, "Well, we go on to check for the brain tumor, or you might have MS," or, there was all these things they were talking about, and s and that, of course, freaked me out, and I didn't tell many people those kind of things that I was being told because I didn't wanna freak everybody out that I could have a brain tumor. Just seems so silly to me. So, once I worked my way to the right specialists and stuff, then, I found actually there's a whole community of people in the world that have Meniere's, and, people talk about it. And that's how I was able to really start to understand further, even before I was diagnosed, what this thing could be.
Mhm.
And I found some really interesting studies by specialized ENTs in the world. So it helped me, like I moved on between, beyond WebMD, and I was really looking at, like, medical research papers until I could find my answers.
Nice. Um, so do you think that this can be this could have been triggered by, like, you going on a plane often?
Hmm. No, it's not actually, and they don't have the actual cause. They don't actually know the cause of this disease, because the inner ear, it's a tricky thing. You
Mhm.
can't really study the inner ear unless,
They're dead.
you can't do it on a live person
Yeah,
because
they're
you'll
dead.
destroy the inner ear and you'll go deaf. So they haven't really figured out the causes. They believe they know what causes it, and it's a buildup of fluid in your inner ear that causes this problem and all this pressure. And there are triggers for people that get it. So for me, for example, I have a little bit of medication that helps me with it, but really a lot of it is health, and
Mhm.
it's my everyday health. So I had to change my diet completely. So like I am like I'm like the poster child for what you're supposed to do in life with being healthy because I'm have to now. Like, I can't have salty foods at all. I had to have a very low sodium diet. I can't have caffeine any longer. I have to have, I really have to have a good amount of sleep every day. I can't physically or mentally be stressed. So it's like all those things you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to have mindfulness, and you're supposed to like exercise and eat right. Well, I have to do all that now.
Yeah.
So they don't know why it happens, but these are the things you can do to help not have those kind of um, intensity of symptoms.
Mm, mm. So, I mean, I'm just like, I'm just intrigued by the fact that there's so many different ailments out here, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And like to find somebody that actually, and it wasn't like I was trying to look for anything, but when I saw that, I was like, Meniere's. I was like, there's nobody that really is talking about this. Like, how
Yeah.
many people are diagnosed with this?
I forget the number. I think it's 1 in 30,000 people maybe.
Wow.
And actually, it's interesting. The day I posted that video, I was looking something up on Meniere's. I don't know. I don't know why I hadn't seen it before. But the Broadway star and TV actress Kristen Chenoweth, she has Meniere's disease, and I was like, she's like the poster child. She's so famous. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. So there's a whole article I had read about her and her having this, and I was like checking the boxes, like, yep, that's me too. Yep, I do that. And because just like myself and anybody else that has this a rare disease, things sometimes can show up. So like it's not like I have anybody with a disease, you can have good days or bad days. And mine can be unexpected. It just shows up. So if something triggers it, it just happens. Like I can't plan things. Sometimes like if I'm working or if I'm going to do an interview, I've had to cancel them because I'm going to have a episode and I have about a 15-minute window before it's really, really bad.
No.
And so within that 15 minutes, I have to do whatever I have to like stop my day and go lay down. And so I think because it is a rare thing that a lot of people don't have, they don't talk about it. But I was surprised to see, like I said, that Kristen Chenoweth has it. And I thought, oh, more people should talk about this. Not just this. Like, I don't know if I want to become the poster child for Meniere's, but I do want us to start talking more about those difficult stories that we're all holding on to.
Mhm,
And I want us to do that so we realize that we're so more connected than we are separate.
mhm,
And it's okay to have a bad story or to have parts of bad stories, because you're not alone.
mhm. So what made you like, what was the point in your life that said, "You know what? I think I need to do this. Our stories matter. I
Mm.
need to make people feel more confident in knowing that you're not alone." Like, what was the, like, point that did that for you? Because I know when it was for me, you know?
Yeah, yeah. You know, it was really started with my podcast, and I started that like about 3 years ago. And that started because I was laid off from a corporate job. And at that point, I really didn't want to be in this corporate world anymore as well. I'd been there for a really long time, and I wanted something else. Like I wanted to do something. I wanted to combine the things that I really love to do
Mhm,
with my interests, my skills, and I wanted to do something that I thought was meaningful or fulfilling, something that provided me real purpose. And long story short, I couldn't figure out what any of that stuff was. So I was kind of
mhm,
trying to merge that stuff up. And I think a lot of people have this problem. Like
mhm,
they love to do certain things, but their skills don't match, or they think they don't, and they want to do something that's brings them real fulfillment, but they don't know if that's what they love or how do they get paid for it. And so I was on this journey of trying to figure that out. And I just said to myself, I'm going to start a podcast because I realized I wanted to tell stories because I thought I can't be the only one that feels a little lost.
mhm,
And I want to be able to talk to people that have the answers so we can all hear about them. So we can find inspiration in every place we're looking.
mhm.
And I thought I'm going to start a podcast that because that's in my head, I was like, that's so easy. Oh my gosh, I want to do that. I've never started a podcast before. I've listened to them. I didn't know what the technology was. And at that point, what I realized, if you like skip a year in the future, was that it is easy to start a podcast, but it's difficult to be good at it. Like
Mhm,
you actually need experience. It's like everything, right? And so I think that during that process is as I started to really start to talk to people, because one little extra piece to this story is I started talking. It was mostly about career focused. I was telling these stories because I wanted to know what people were doing, how they knew they should be in that career. What I started to realize was that felt limiting to me, and I wanted to know about uncommon stories, the stories that we're not hearing. And I started to dig deeper into things that I was super curious about. And so I think just putting in the work and like, I wanted to tell stories, but once I got into it, I realized how important it was to me, and that it wasn't just about finding advice from others. It was about that every story matters, each person matters, and all of their stories matter. So I think that moment, and it was probably like maybe I was maybe about a year into it that I like it really like clicked for me even further. I was like, "Oh, well," and then I just went crazy about it. I just thought, "I'm gonna talk to all these people," and I was just like, nobody was off like my radar. And I really wanted to learn through the process. I think that was important to learn from people that aren't like us.
Mhm. There's a question. So the real Kima Kaor, I don't know if you're on YouTube at all.
I
Um,
am.
you are okay. So I definitely have to subscribe to your channel and whatnot. But the real Kima Kaor, she's another a cool person. I enjoy looking at her shows and everything. So she says she was diagnosed with vertigo. Isn't it similar?
Yeah, vertigo is usually more of a symptom of something.
Mm,
And so a traditional it's interesting. I just had the conversation about a week ago with a good friend who's having some vertigo episodes. And because I've gotten so good at this and understanding the differences, I was like, that's not what you have. I'm like, I can diagnose you. If you have vertigo that, for example, when you move your head to a certain direction and it's one direction, not both. So if you move it to the left and things start to spin a little bit, or if you lay down on that side or something, or you get up and you get vertigo, it's usually because there's a problem in your inner ear with these little crystals that float around in that little circumference, in the little I forget what they call that now. It's like the little coil in your ear, and these little crystals can break apart and float around. And when that happens, it creates vertigo. So that's a really common version of what people get vertigo is.
okay.
And that's usually the vertigo that lasts for like a few minutes at a time. If you're dehydrated, it can also cause that. Vertigo can also be symptoms of other things.
Mhm,
So, if you have vertigo and it's consistent, you definitely want to make sure you go to the doctor for that.
mhm.
The good news is the one that's most common, and it's called BPP, and I don't remember what the actual words are for that acronym. But that little crystal one, that can actually be fixed. So
Oh,
that's not something you live with, and it's just a maneuver that you actually have to do with your body to kind of get that crystal back in place.
okay.
And there's actually YouTube videos for it. I will tell everybody if it's something that you are going to investigate and it's something you have, it does not feel good to do the maneuver because it makes the vertigo worse, but it will fix it.
Okay. Myra says, "Do you have white noise in your head?"
Yeah, I do. So that white noise for me is a high pitch sound. So people with Meniere's can have different versions of that. Oftentimes, they have a real low bass sound, I guess, is what they've
Oh,
described as. That is not my version. Mine is that really high pitched, kind of. It's a sort of like a ringing, and It is constant. And truthfully, at first, it was really problematic. It was really hard not to focus always hearing that.
mhm,
Especially because I'm somebody who loves quiet. Like, I just love, like, a Sunday morning where it's so quiet, I don't have to hear anything. Helps That's how I kind of chill out and I relax. And as this started and it progressed and it was louder and it always stuck around, it felt like that was stolen from me.
mm.
Like, the
Pe
peace that I always could find in my life, I knew I would go out in nature and I would quiet. If and it feels like I've never had that again. But after a while, you're able to tune it out, and there's also behavioral methods that you can learn to also try to tune it out. I mean, it's always there,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, it's that's a reality.
What kind of behavioral methods are there?
I haven't tried them. Um, my doctor had told me that he said, because it was fairly new, and he said, Give it a little time." And he's like, if it progresses, gets louder, or you start to realize you can't tune it out, then we can start to do that. And it's almost like he described it to me as like going to physical therapy. where you're stretching, but this is actually like I think it's mind over matter. Like you're learning practices to kind of focus. I think it's a little kind of a mindfulness focus piece.
Mhm.
But I didn't go much further than that because after a while I just started to realize it would fade because I would focus. Maybe I'm already doing it and I don't know it, but I would just focus on other things. I have earphones in a lot. Also, when I write a lot for work,
Mhm.
and so I put earphones in to play really quiet music, and that kinda helps drown that out for me as well.
Okay. Hmm. Um, Kima says, when I lay down, it happens. I take Melazatin or Meclazin. I don't know how to pronounce that word. It's Meclazine, but I haven't had any more episodes in a while.
Yeah,
So,
the lay down, that makes me really think it's BPP. So if you haven't researched that, just Google vertigo BPP, and you'll see all this information about that as well.
um, so what else is there? Because I don't want to just keep on talking about the Meniere's because you
Yeah.
have a lot of depth to you. So what else is there that like intrigues the world? Intrigues
Yes,
me.
well
That's all else.
well, the thing I've been working on recently, I think is interesting is so I created this live streaming show as well, and I wanted to do something, and this started because of my Meniere's. I didn't really tell everybody why I was doing that. So I have this podcast that I do in person, and it's what's interesting. What I didn't say about this podcast, since it's called My Big Story. My Big Story is it's a meta theme, so it's the story of the individual person I'm interviewing, but it's about me going and doing this thing, so you can actually get to hear my story as well. So, literally, I'm on a plane, train, or automobile, and I record all of that. So you can actually hear me on I did an episode where I'm on a farm, this little hidden farm hidden in Los Angeles, and you can hear me with the chickens and the goats and all those things. And so one time I'm in Indianapolis, and actually I wasn't even in Indianapolis. I was going somewhere north of Indianapolis. Fort Wayne, I think, is where I went. And but I was coming back to Indianapolis on the road to see friends for the night because I had just interviewed somebody, and so I was staying in the night. They're like, "Oh, we're marching in the Pride Parade next tomorrow, so you should come with us." So I did that and I recorded that.
Okay.
So that's part of the meta theme. So w- what's happened with the Meniere's because I couldn't travel for a while and I had to take a break. I wanted to do something though. How could I do something? And I wanted to expand this story driven piece. And I realized that the podcast is like inspiration. You can find inspirational ideas and stories, but I wanted something that was also a little bit more advice driven because the show isn't that. So I started this um, a streaming show called Our Stories Live. And I originally started it on Instagram because I thought, oh, that's cool. I'm going to try that. I haven't used their live tool. I wonder how well I could use it. Nobody was doing it.
Mhm.
It didn't live there very long because it's the reception isn't always great. And so it's just not great. But I'm interviewing somebody and it is a little bit about their story. It's usually unique, interesting people. But instead of just hearing about their really big story and what makes them who they are, this is about their their differentness. That's what I refer to as like the things that make us different. So it's the differentness of who they are and how they actually use that to make a life that they love and work that is fulfilling. So that's been something that's been really fun, and I just started to do it every 2 weeks now, and it lives on Facebook Live. And
Okay.
then I actually do stick it on the YouTube channel as well afterwards. So that's actually been kind of fun because it's also remote, so I can interview different people. So I feel like now I have this inspiration show, and then I have an advice-driven show where because I'm asking these people like what's an advice for, I just interviewed a musician last week, and I wanted to know like he does streaming as well, and he's really created giant fan base on streaming, and not a lot of musicians are doing this. So we really talked about how he was able to do that, and what makes him uniquely qualified to do this. And
Mhm.
so I feel like it's a nice way to complement what I'm doing and to help people really kind of dig into their own life.
Yeah, it's kinda like, all right, now that you know who you are, what your purpose is, now you can see people who are actually living in their purpose, and it can encourage you to go ahead and go after it. So, yes, it's one and one. I love it. That's great.
There's actually one more part that's coming, and I just haven't really talked about it publicly, but I'm working on it right now. There's actually an academy that I'm launching as well to help people figure out what they wanna do. Because I think a lot it's all this stuff if you go back to when I was, like, laid off on that job, it's all the stuff I was had the problem with. Like, "Well, I don't know, what do I wanna do when I grow up?"
Mhm.
And the funny thing was, I mean, I had a career for a long time. I just wanted to do something different, and I wanted to combine skills and passions and purpose. And so I'm bringing that full around to, okay, so I have shows that inspire. I have a show that can help you with real live advice. I w Could there be materials like coursework that you could take that you could do on your own with a community that helps you to actually learn what makes you unique and different, how to apply that to your career, into your life, so you can live intentionally and follow a dream or change the world. So I'm really excited about that. So that'll be coming out. My goal is by the end of this year that you can then join in, figure out what you want to do and how you want to do it, and you'll have all these people in different ways to help you do it.
Right. How can someone get involved in that? Are you still looking for people who can contribute to that academy?
Well, the academy itself is actually something I've been building and working on itself. So the pieces that people can contribute would be possibly maybe being guests in some of the master classes that will be in there. Um, and then it's the academy is more about it's a membership based academy. So people would actually pay to join to take the coursework and then be in the community.
Mhm.
The things that live around it, like the different shows, would be free and to be able to participate. There is a free community I have open now on Facebook called, all of a sudden it slipped my mind, Celebrate Your Differentness,
Okay.
community. So there's a way that people can come in there and collaborate with each other and help each other.
Yeah, guys. So all of that's going to be down there. Check it out. If you want, you can type in the chat, your Facebook, so that people can go there now if they wanted to, and your YouTube, so they can go there now. And I'll make that link accessible. But like, yeah, I think this is really dope. Like, I really enjoy hearing about inspirational things. You know what I mean? Like, it's like we're like you said, we're all like similar but different in many ways. And I think those differences, if we just look at it, will bring us together, you know? So,
What's interesting is I talk so much about celebrating the things that make us different.
mhm,
And the real drive for me to do this is that I believe that the more we all do this, is that we'll create a world where we all belong. That's
mhm,
actually the driver of this for me, because I think we should be. It's not just about individually. I want every person to feel happy and fulfilled. But if we can embrace that, we can get that way by just celebrating those things that make us different, and that could be big things. It could be like skin color, sexual identity, all those sorts of things. But it can also be the small things, the things that you really love, your interest, the way that you love music, the types of food you like, and you could put all those things together. And there's only one you,
mhm.
and I think that's a beautiful thing. And the world is made up of this. So the more that we can see that, and the more that we realize that we all belong, the truth is, the more that we realize that we're actually the same. So
Exactly.
even though I talk about being different all the time, when we're all different, that's what makes us the same. So that's the beauty of this all.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Do you have anything else you wanted to let us know? Anything new coming up outside of the master classes and
I would say like probably the newest thing is definitely the academy. That's the thing, and the Our Stories live show on Facebook. And I will say that the podcast, which I've missed dearly, that I'm gonna start working on season 3 soon because now I'm actually feel well enough to be able to do that.
Mhm.
Um, and so that will be coming out early next year. And the one extra thing I will say about that is I've always learned that you should do what you know. And that means borrow from your own experience. Well, I've had a real interesting last year with this whole experience. So I'm going to, that's helping me theme the new season of the podcast. So I'm excited to figure out how I can apply that. I mean, I already have a plan. I just don't want to give it away.
Oh, you don't have to.
And I think it's gonna be really interesting because it's gonna take the show further than I could before.
Mhm,
And I'm so excited about that because I think it'll allow me to speak to guests that I wouldn't normally would have thought of.
mhm.
And I have a wonderful producer because I mean, about a year and a half or so ago, I hired a wonderful producer, maybe a couple of years ago, because I wanted my show to be like NPR quality. Because I was like, okay, this is what I meant about being good. Like I had this bar that I was trying to get to. So I'm so excited about season 3 early next year to work with my producer again and take the show to another level.
Is there anywhere you would like to travel that you haven't been able to travel to yet to do your podcast or
Well, right now with the show, with the podcast, I kept it to the US because it is on my dime.
Mhm.
So, and there's still lots of parts of the US that I have not been to, or smaller communities within areas that I haven't been to yet that I would love to be. Um, but so there's lots of places I could go to in the US. I would actually love to go outside of the US and expand the premise of the show too. But I think I would need some support on a sponsor on that if I was gonna do something like, because I have invitations to go to Canada, the UK, and Australia, and, I would love to do that with the show, and I've been to Australia a couple times, and it's a wonderful country, but if I'm gonna go back, it would be great to if I had a sponsor. I still think it would be really nice to do some places in like, I would like to do the South a little bit more for the show, and I haven't done much of the East Coast on the show. I've definitely done Midwest, and I mean, I've done I've just done little spots here and there. Like I've been to Portland, I've been to Alabama, Nashville, Indiana a couple times. Just sometimes the guests are in just random places. So if there's a really wonderful story that I think is the right story for the show,
Mhm.
then I'll go.
Okay. And, do you have any stories about, like, your guests, like, some quirky stories or funny stories? Mhm.
I always do because there's always stuff that doesn't go into the show, because we edit them down quite a bit, and sometimes I spend, quite a bit of time. Um, there is one episode that we produced that left in the reality of what happened to
Okay.
that show, and so I had gone to New York City to interview these fellows called the Crafty Lumberjacks.
Mhm.
And they are a real life couple, that used to perform on Broadway, but now they actually have this craft kind of brand. They work with HGTV and they do these great things like Halloween and whatever. And they're fun. And I've chatted with them quite a bit online. When I go to meet them in person, they're in Queens. So I'm in Manhattan. I get in the Uber. I'm on my way over there. I get out of the Uber and it was just it was just poor luck because there was a guy behind us honking. I was trying to get out and I had tons of stuff because I have all these bags and also I record everything. Like I recorded the Uber driver because he
Oh.
had a fascinating story about being an immigrant. And so I forgot my phone in the car.
Oh.
I didn't even have the apartment number to the guys I was seeing. So when I got out of the car, I literally was like, I don't know where I'm going. And I realized I didn't have it. I was in New York. I have no phone and no way to connect that. The guys were so good to me. They actually came out to the street, they ended up seeing me, and we spent quite a few hours trying to track my phone down and got Uber to go back into the city against policy and hand deliver it to me.
That's cool.
But, I mean, just the ways to do that, to make it happen was really difficult. So, actually, that episode actually captures a lot of that story because we just thought it was so, like, you can actually hear me literally in the moment of when I realize I lose my phone.
Oh my god.
So there's like there's a time with, I mean, there's little things that happen, like, I remember I went to go interview this one woman, I was staying at a hotel, I got up in the morning, I was gonna make some coffee on the Keurig machine, and I'm trying to get ready, and I'm running a little late, the Keurig machine explodes
Oh, oh.
all over me. So, like, coffee is everywhere, and so I'm like, "That's okay. I got 15 minutes to clean up to get in the car to the Uber to get over there to interview this woman." And so, like, there's little moments like that that happen that don't always make it into there,
Mhm.
but there's always something like, you miss a flight or the flights are late or you have to take 3 flights
Ooh.
and, like, you traveled all day to get to this one guest,
Mhm.
you
And then
know?
but then it's like the best time of your life, right?
It is, and I've done this long enough where I don't prepare every interview question. I prepare a few, and then I wanna know just enough to get me into the story so I can be surprised along with the listeners.
Mhm.
And I try to set them up unexpectedly. Like, I interviewed, the actress and comedian Suzanne Wong, and for folks that don't know who she is, she was the host on House Hunters for 7 years,
Okay.
and, she's done multiple things, and so when I interviewed her in her car, and we did it inside of a restaurant parking lot that was really important to her story.
Okay.
And so we had this really fun interview in this car. Plus, also, I'm sitting in Hollywood with this TV actress in her car. It's the most random thing ever. And then afterwards, we go and have dinner at the restaurant. And I'm like, I'm hanging out with Suzanne Wong. I was just like, how cool is my life right now?
Yeah, that sounds really cool. But what the probably the most amazing part about it is like you got to see something that most people who just want to interview does, and that's just interview. But you got to know her, so she'll remember you. You have now become part of her legacy.
Yeah.
She is part of your legacy. So that's dope right there.
I think that is really true because I think that's what's really important about this connection to people. There's this one other guest, and I talk about him a lot because he's just so wonderful. And I just love for your everybody's watching. You should know about this guy. Rodney Smith Jr. is just he's phenomenal and amazing. And I stumbled on him on Instagram too. That's actually how I found him. And then I started Instagram stalking him, and I'm like, who is this guy? He's so cool. And he is this young man that, when I met him, he was still in college, but he's graduated since. He started this nonprofit, and he's in Alabama, and he started this nonprofit where he helps, um, senior citizens, people with disabilities, single mothers, and veterans take care of their yards.
Oh.
And the way he does it, though, it gets better, is that he doesn't always do it himself. He started it that way. But what he does is he brings the youth of the community in to do it. And it's youth that actually need a little mentoring, the ones that are maybe having a tough time in school, that need maybe
At
an
risk.
older mentor.
Yeah.
And so he started this organization, and so he brings these people in, these young kids that are actually now mowing the lawns within their community, getting to know these people.
Mm,
He then took it a step further and created chapters around the nation.
nice.
So and it all started because he was driving down the road one day and saw this older man having a really hard time mowing his lawn. And so he just pulled over and said, "Oh, I'll do it." And he explained to me why it's so important to do these things is because a lot of people, especially he's like the seniors or the people with disabilities, if they can't take care of the yard, he goes, they get fined by the city. He goes,
Mm,
and that money is the money they would usually pay for medication and other things. So it's
yeah.
like the poor tax. And he's like, so what we're doing is we're just creating this horrible problem that's compounding on top of each other. So if we can come in here and do this, so he's been doing this for a few years now, and once a year he actually does a tour, and he goes to every state, and he mows one lawn in every state to bring awareness to these chapters and to get more kids involved. The kids that join, there's little incentives. It's kind of like karate, where you get black belt, brown belt, those sorts of things for your experience level. The more lawns you mow, the different colored shirt you get to
Uh,
show how many you've done. So, like, those are the people I get to interview, and, like, when I went and interviewed him, I went and actually helped him mow lawns in his community, and then we, like, Facebook Lived it, and so those stories stick with me forever because I had never been to Alabama, so my first time in Alabama is hanging out with Rodney all day long and doing all these things, and he took me around to the homeless camps where he helps people, and I got to meet people, so it was phenomenal. This is such a gift that I get to do this.
See, guys, I keep telling you guys that our world is getting better every day. And now you hear it from Chris. So, like, you guys, I'm sure all of you guys have stories too about people in your community or even yourself. So, I think that is really cool. Yeah, I'm definitely digging that. Like, I really, really, really am glad that you came on and decided to come on and, be here for me and just to share your story and everything. Like, it's amazing. I was actually a little nervous too.
Oh, were you? I
Yeah,
just I
I don't
just sent you, also, I just sent you this that's the
yeah, yeah,
URL to my company that has the podcast, the shows, and all the other stuff.
yes. I'm posting it right now. Chris's website. Yeah, so I don't know what else to say because I'm just like you have no idea. I'm just excited that you said yes. And leading up to it, I was like really nervous. Really because you know, it's just I don't know. But there is one thing I know people can do if they want to support you or get to know more about your company. I know you're giving away free
Hmm.
stickers.
I am, yes, I actually have one next to me.
I saw that post.
Yes, that's what they look like.
So, guys, if you want a free sticker, you have to go to his Instagram or to his website and you get a free sticker.
Yeah, if you go to my website, there's actually an order form there, and then I ship them out. I have sent those all over the world, like, because this came up to be, I just thought I wanted something that was tangible that reminded people that your story matters. It actually comes with, I think I have one around here somewhere. Oh, it's behind me. It comes with this little card
Oh,
that has the same sort of artwork and also a community, that's diverse and unique and different like us. And then on the back of it, I have a little what it's about and why it matters. And so I decided that I wanted to give those for free because I wanted people just to have an everyday reminder that your kind of special is exactly what the world needs. And so I've sent out thousands of these things, and I think I'm in 22 countries right now. Like, I just sent another one to Paris, and where did I the other one is somewhere in the Middle East. I forget now. But,
wow.
like, it's phenomenal to me how people love these things and feel pride in it because I wanted it to be like it's your thing. It's not my thing. It's about your story, and I wanna help people remind them. I will say the academy that's coming out
Mhm.
soon actually has more swag that comes with it, with that sort of theme on it, but you have to join to actually get those different elements, and that's all done and ready. I just haven't finished the materials. But
Okay.
anyways, yes, go to the website, and I would happily send you a sticker.
Okay. Just run down how they can contact you. And then again, I'll still have that in the description after today. If you can just email me everything that you want me to write, and I will make sure that's in there.
For sure.
Yeah.
So the easiest way to find all the things that I'm doing is really the accidentalinformation.com. So that's my company's website. I have my own website, but unless you really want to know about me, you don't need to go there. But so accidental. And then if you want to find me anywhere online, it's actually my handle is Oh Hi Christopher. So it's OHHI Christopher. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Um, and um, all those places also have links to any other place I'm at, so very easy to find.
Nice. Do you have any other parting inspirational words that you can leave for the chat? Because there's so many people that go through different things.
Yeah, something that has really stayed with me over this last year, especially, is the word persistence. Like,
Mm,
be persistent. Don't give up. We all face adversity, and we face it multiple times. Like, you're gonna get little things, you're gonna get big things, like bills that are unexpected, hard making the rent this month, health problems, not getting as far along on your dream as you want to, feeling low because other people on Instagram seem to be doing it all and you're not, which is actually not true.
mhm.
But stay persistent. Stay tough. Keep going. That's the thing. Like, you got to have that little bit of blinders on. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. You got your thing, and keep doing it, even if it's hard, but keep going. And also find help. You don't need to do everything you're doing on your own. That's actually why I started this community on Facebook. I just started it not too long ago, and it doesn't have a ton of people in it yet, which is fine to me. But I wanted a space where I said, "Hey, you're not alone. Like, be persistent, go through your stuff, but also holler, raise your hand. Like, we'll give each other advice, or if you need something, that's what we're about." So I think that's my advice: is don't give up. People are going through adversity just like you. You can do it, but ask for help.
Yep. I'm gonna piggyback off of that by what I always say every night. You can catch Hello World every single night between 7 and 9. Those are the hours that I go on. I have different people on, like Chris. It's all about Hello World is all about talking about everything and anything, the difficult topics, some that are not difficult, sometimes it's fun and airy. It doesn't matter. The point of the matter is the more we speak about our issues or our concerns, the more we'll realize that you're not by yourself. You guys are so beautiful. Now, let me correct that. Your soul is so beautiful. It's amazing. There is no mistake about your soul. Whatever you believe in, whether it's God, your maker, or whoever it is, if they thought that it was important enough for you to be birthed to see this very moment, then that's should be enough for you to know that you are amazing. There is no mistakes. Even when we do have hard times or where we either fail our own selves or we fail others, it's okay because you can always get up. Just like Chris said, never give up and just start fresh again, right? Because every day we wake up is basically a new day anyway. It's just our bodies are aging, but it's still a new day. And just use Chris's story as an example that it doesn't matter what you may have, whatever ailments you may have, you may not have any. You may have more that you may have something that's a little bit more um, consuming for your body and your soul than Chris. But at the end of the day, he's still doing what he's got to do. He's still going forward. He's still moving with 3 different businesses or more, and he's not allowing his ailment to stop him from living out his purpose. So whatever you guys feel is your purpose, if you don't know what it is, you know how I love to say, break out the mirror, look at yourself. If you can look at yourself and appreciate what you see, then you're on your way. And once you allow life to flow, you will grow. So I hope that you guys sleep so peacefully tonight. You wake up refreshed, ready to be the best version of yourself, and also to be the difference for someone else in your life. Because if you are better, everybody else is going to be able to be better. And you'll be able to tell your story and not be afraid to do so. Pride will not let you do that because you'll be living in a transparent life. So, without further ado, I am here every single night between 7 and 9. If you want to get to know anything about me, Chris, or any other people that have been on Hello World or Our Lives Seen Through My Eyes or whatever else I've done, check the links down below and you will definitely be very encouraged, very inspired. So, Chris, you're going to have to say it with me. So, my name is Joy from Be the Difference, and this is.
Christopher, and hello world.
Yes. See you guys later. Thank you.
Thanks.